Okay, good afternoon everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Not too loud? I'll try and speak as slowly as possible because of my accent. So I'm from the UK but from Scotland, so didn't need a passport to get down here this week, which was good. So okay, my name is Graeme Stirling. I'm the IT Director for the Miller Group, which is a UK construction home building company, which I'll touch on a little bit more in a couple of slides. And my main objective today is just give you a bit of a feel for where we've been in the last few years with Alfresco. Maybe a couple of lessons learned and what we plan to do, and did we meet all our objectives as a little case study in our use of Alfresco. So tell you a little bit about the Miller Group, one slide just to put you into the picture, a bit about our business environment and how we run the different businesses and how IT fits into that. A bit about the environment, although I'm not overly technical, so if you've got a lot of technical questions I may struggle with them, but I'll give you a flavour of the technology. Sorry, Miguel answered him. He knows our site very well. And a quick overview of the history of Alfresco, good and bad, and then what we'd like to see next. And in fact, actually, some of the things that were outlined this morning, actually, I've maybe filled in some of the blanks for us. So that might be good. But we wrote this before we saw this morning's keynote, so apologies if I've covered anything. So the Miller Group is quite a traditional company. So we have an open cast mine, we have some residential home building, we have commercial property development, and we have a construction division which we've actually recently sold to Galliford, so we're in the process of moving that off. So a very traditional type business. So we're not a high-tech business, and a lot of the people here, they're at the front line and building things, and key to what they do is to have the latest available content, as we would call it. So a lot of that might be a CAD drawing or a technical specification or anything. So it's crucial that they have the correct information. Otherwise, we could have abortive day works out there on site, or more dangerous things like health and safety, because health and safety is obviously a big thing for a construction company. So that's all I'm going to say about the Miller Group. So I just want to make the point, we're not high tech, but we are a very traditional business. How IT support the business? Well, over here I've said we've got different divisions, and we are centrally supported by one IT team, which I run within the business, and we've got separate businesses and separate regional business leaders. So sometimes they want to go at slightly different paces, and what we try and do as a central IT team is to try and move everybody along in the same pace and on the same platforms. That's not always successful. But if I touch on where we've been with enterprise content management in the past and where we are with Alfresco, you'll hopefully get a view for that on there. So that's all I propose to say about that, to put a bit of background to where we are. So I thought I'd start off in a couple of slides is, why Alfresco? Our previous platform, we call it a platform, and I think Alfresco call it a platform now, so they've probably pinched it from us. Did you, Paul? I don't know. But, so it is a platform of what we do. So we have a number of strategic platforms we feel we have within our kit bag, as we call it, and we try and build everything out on these. Not to say we won't buy something else if required, but we do try and concentrate on the strategic elements. So previous to Alfresco, we ran OpenText, a product called LiveLink from OpenText, and we ran that successfully for over a decade. It was a brilliant product, actually, to be honest. And I'll come back to a bit more detail on that. But in a nutshell, in 2008, if you remember the property crash in the UK, we were hit very badly in the UK with our investment in property, and we had to find a system that was equally as good, if not better, than LiveLink, but a better price point, and that's where Alfresco came in. So we went out with an objective of achieving a big annual saving in our cost model on lots of things, but enterprise content management was one of them, and we achieved that with Alfresco, which I shall come on to a bit later. I think we also thought that whilst LiveLink had been great for a long time, we felt it had lost its way a little bit, and we wanted a more technologically sound and a more progressive platform and a bit more agile. So we wanted to move forward a bit quicker and do more things, and we felt we're getting a little bit stuck in there. So we chose, after a selection, we did look at, I won't knock any competitors, but we did look at the usual gambit of what's available out there, and chose LiveLink. And for the team that was replacing it and implementing LiveLink, they were replacing one of our most popular systems. For those who do a customer satisfaction survey every year, which we do, what we called Empower, which is our old LiveLink system, was 1 or 2 on the customer satisfaction survey. So the team had a big job to replace what was people thought was a really, really good system in our business, and they used it a lot, and the externals used it a lot, and we had to replace that with a new system. And so we had to do that in a no-fuss manner, and we had to make it, we had to try and give them something to make it feel it was better for them. So I think I've probably covered these last points in the bits above, but I think just to summarise, LiveLink wasn't bad, it was just 10 years old. It was great, but it faded and got a bit confused. Our users wanted more, and we were taking a bit of time to deliver them more in what we did. And I think if we didn't deliver on something and give them something better or more cost effective, I think the challenge for us was, I think Dropbox and other things, I think was on the verge of becoming proliferated in our organisation. And touch wood, or as much as I know anyway, I think we've successfully stemmed that tide, and most people know that to use Empower Docs, as we call it, which is Alfresco, and they use that very successfully. So I think the challenge for us, if we did nothing, I think our previous platform would have faded away, and we would have been left with a bigger problem of dispersed information in cloud systems that we maybe didn't necessarily trust. So that was some of the key reasons why we went for Alfresco. So, in a bit more detail, what did we want out of our new ECM solution? Well, we wanted everything we had before and a little bit more. That's fair to say. But we did want to improve some of our business processes and do more workflow and about documents and the content we had. We wanted to try and do a lot of more automatic filing. We have a lot of repetitive filing in our business. So if you're building a house on a development, then everything in plot number 29, you want to go into the file for plot 29. So we wanted that to more automatically go into plot 29 rather than people have to go click, 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 click. I'm going to put that into plot 29. So it may all sound very simple, but we wanted to have more automatic filing on where it knew. We wanted more tagging information so we could better retrieve that information. We wanted more workflow, and we wanted some new functionality. One of the issues with the old system was that we had a split of people who use LiveLink and somebody who used shared data files, shared servers, who just like the Windows interface, Windows Explorer, and they wanted to click on an Excel spreadsheet, go in, change it, and click it and store it back. And they didn't really want to do any more than that, so they didn't want all the other bits. So we wanted a share drive functionality, and we also wanted a website bit functionality. Key to us is documents and that content, as I said earlier, and a big one for us is email. So we have now a lot of email requests to proceed on a contractual basis, say go and pour that cement into that big hole is a simple example. But if that's delivered by email, you want to be able to save that, and you want to be able to retrieve that if you have to. So again, dragging and dropping emails into Empower or into Alfresco is a big thing for us. And I noticed the Outlook thing today, but we've undertaken a couple of ways of doing it, one with IMAP and one another way, because we actually don't use Outlook. We still use Novell's GroupWise for the people who have ever heard of that, so we're still using probably a legacy system to an extent, but we've achieved that, and emails are stored. So email is classified as a bit of content and a document in our organisation as well. And we wanted a single secure drive, call it drive, for all the data. So we wanted it in one place, and we can put rules and regulations around about that. Okay, and I always call it Empower Docs. So pardon me if we call Alfresco Empower Docs internally. So if you hear me saying Empower Docs, I mean the Alfresco platform. So that's a little bit more detail about what we wanted. And our vision was, there's maybe too many words on this slide, so I'll try and go through it. But in our organisation, I would say we think 80+% of the information and the decision making that people make is not from our ERP system or our big data or our business analytics or our ClickView system. They're all great systems, and they've got a lot of great transactions in them, financial transactions, everything else, which people do make decisions on. But I think a lot of you look at that triangle, a lot of that slices of the triangle going downwards make decisions and on the basis of unstructured data which sits in the Empower Doc system, which is resident in documents or content within there. So for us, it's a big key system for people to do that. We did want to unify the wrap and the structure around all our content, And I've mentioned the customer care and plot management, that, so everything goes into plot 29 so that sales can see it, the customer care warranty people can see it, anybody else can see any data that comes into plot 29 for that particular site. That's a big thing. Another example where we wanted to use it for and expand the use of it is for our money laundering. If you go and buy a house, you've got to provide a passport, a utility bill, and a lot of money laundering hoops we go through. Well, all of that is all done and stored in the Alfresco system as well for us. Finance, is there any finance people in the room? So we can call them bean counters and they won't get too offended then, right? So we'll come back to that, but a couple of things saved our bacon in finance, because all they wanted was a Windows Explorer and a set of bloody spreadsheets, not really interested in anything else. And you know what? Those group of people, of which we've got quite a lot of them in our organisation, are still exactly the same, but we'll come back to that. And then the point about the site teams, they've got to have the latest and best drawings. So if they're using the wrong drawing, CAD drawing that is, to build a house, and a revision has come through and they don't have that latest drawing, then that's abortive day works. That costs the company money, costs profit, and it's just bad for business. So we wanted to have people to have the very latest and best information. Because no longer do people drive around in motorbikes with a big sort of roll, A0 drawing. It's all electronic now. And I think I've said this, the key elements we think of our day-to-day decision making is made a lot from the information that's stored in there. So, if I touch on a couple more areas of migration approach, so we've got a lot of documents, but maybe not the biggest enterprise. We've got about, it's over 15, it says 16 terabytes there, so it's a lot of storage, there's a lot of data in there, a lot of history. A lot of documents to reorganize that. So we went with a very small team, 2-person team, rolled out to all 1,400 people across all the locations across the UK. We had a migration approximately every 2 weeks. Regional teams were set up at short notice, and that was very deliberate because we just wanted to try and get in there, show them it, and get them onto it. We didn't do a lot of user training because we don't think, we think it's fairly intuitive for people to use it, especially if they're staying with a Windows Explorer view, because it's just, we'll come on to that in a minute. And the migrations were completed over the weekend, so they would stop access to the system and they would try and get in and get out and fairly quickly. And the average size of data was between 500 gig and a terabyte is what we did. That's more than that. We had problems, a couple of problems of bulk injection, a couple of things round about it, which is well aware of, but I think if you move a manageable set of data in, it seemed to work okay. And that bulk injection tool was the key tool that we used to bring data out of LiveLink and into Alfresco. So what we're doing in phase 2, so that was really our idea was get everybody off the current platform and get them onto the new platform, get them using it, and then what we're now doing is we're revisiting people and showing them the value add functions and the value add bits and bobs that are in there, which I'll come on to in a little minute as well. So that's without going into detail of all of that, that's a rough approach. Is we didn't want to be, in summary, we didn't want to be too clever with the original implementation. I thought, get them onto the platform, get them used to it, and we'll build from there, was our general strategy on that. We did have a number of lessons learnt. There's lots of them, right? But here's the top 3 from me and the grief that I got. Is all migrations are planned, and people thought it was an ideal opportunity to reorganize the data, right? If I went back to the previous slide, I did say in here, where did I say in here? No reorganization before migration, because what we did in the first couple is we thought it was a great idea, so we spent a huge amount of time in the business reorganizing all the data because they hadn't done it in 10 years. And it was a bloody disaster because everybody got the new Alfresco and they couldn't find anything. Therefore, Alfresco got the blame. So it was a bloody nightmare. Maybe simple now, but I tell you, it was terrible. So my idea is don't do this. Either you're reorganizing your data and your structure way before, so people are used to it, or do it after. And our decision after the first couple was to do it after. I think there's too much going on at any one time, and people get confused. And the system gets blamed. It is simple as that. And really, the data was all there. They just couldn't find it because of the reorganization. So that was our biggest mistake we made. Second biggest mistake is, I think don't index everything, because and think about an indexing strategy, because we indexed everything because we did in the previous system. So we thought, well, we'll just do it in this one as well. And you know what, it's not such a good idea. And we did have a bit of some lessons learned from moving from Lucene to Solar. Solar is good, Lucene wasn't so good. That's in my non-technical speak. So we did have issues there in the amount of data of what we're trying to index there. I think the final thing for us is don't leave it too long before getting the apps and the new stuff to them, because the bean counters, because there's no finance people in the room, I can call it bean counters, think it's a lot of effort for a new file structure. Because some people say to me, well, this is all very great, this is good, but I mean, I've just got the same as I had before, except it's an M drive rather than an S drive. So I think for the PR and the effort that's put into it, some people might just see it as a new drive and no benefits. I think so don't leave that too long. We've left that a little bit too long in some areas, and we do have some people saying not really seeing the value of this new system. Other people can see it, some people can't. So I'm not blaming everything on the bean counters, but they are the worst, I have to say, right? Most definitely for in our organisation. So we'll probably have a few more, but they're the big ones for me. If we were doing it again, we wouldn't do any of those again. So our infrastructure platform, this is the bit I'm not hugely good on. We've got about 1,400 users, and they use it. All those users use Alfresco every single day, right? So there's no different system they can go and use. We've removed the old methods of publication, as we call it. So all the old systems are gone. So if they want to access a file, they've got to do it there. Okay, they can keep a file on their own personal drive on their PC, but to be honest, that's against company policy, and again, we manage that and lock it down as well. So they have limited scope there. So everything is held in here. And we have a fairly simple architecture, load balancer, a couple of servers, so which helps if you're when we're changing things, we can take one offline and the rest still runs. Separate indexing we brought in when we had the problems with indexing, and database server, and then the content store at the back. Content store's on a big EMC, big expensive thing at the back. I don't know much more about it than that. But that seems to work now very well, and we have a fair amount of data on there, okay? And we keep a lot of versions, and we've got to keep data for a certain amount of time. And probably here to say is, so people accessing the system are obviously using the share interface quite heavily, but some people will simply use the WebDAV, and I'll come on to the WebDAV in a little bit again, have another go at the bean counters. So how do we use Alfresco? So as I said, so we've got four sort of key areas, but the first one on the left there is WebDAV. So that's a common protocol UI that we use, so it's just the Windows Explorer interface. Finance people use that, they don't use anything else, right? So a few other people use that, and that did help us. The share, we encourage people to use the share, and lots of people are starting to use the share because they can do favorites, they can set notifications, they can get a bit of push of the data. So they can start to do things themselves, they can favorite out, they can like things. So we're encouraging that all the time. That's our growth of encouraging the use of the share platform. We have people using sites, so that's sites internally for us, but we have external people, so subcontractors, and other people access those sites to get, again, the latest and greatest information. We do it on legal, for legal conveyancing with legal firms in the UK. We do it with subcontract partners of ours. We do it with consulting engineers. Who else do we do it with? We don't do it with Alfresco, maybe we should. We don't do it either. So we use that a lot, and people who are non-Miller employees can access the data in the sites. And we built some custom apps, as we call them. Whether the apps are not like they were talking about this morning but we call them apps, and we tell our users we've built apps. But I'll give a couple of slide shots on that in a minute, actually. In fact, I'll just go on to them now. So one of them is a sort of KMS system. So if we're looking to, so people will put data into it, and they'll tag it appropriately. Okay, they might be able to tag it more effectively now after this morning's sessions. And then depending on that, so this is just an HTML set of web scripts built on top of the Alfresco data, so that people have a more website search look and feel rather than the share interface. So they could do all of that in share, to be honest, right? And they can edit it and they can do things. But some people want it to their section of data to look more a bit like a website, if that makes sense, okay? And that's what that is. So that's for people who go out to win work. If they're searching for lots of data, they can go in, they can find the data. It's just using standard search in Alfresco, but surfacing it in this way. And about the only thing we added in is they can put it into little baskets to say, yeah, I'm looking for that, so I'll keep that. I'm looking for that, so I'll keep that. Whereas in the past, they probably had to make a little note on a notepad to say where they found the data, or to download that document and put it into somewhere. So that, it's got a bit of latest news. So that would be, they were quite chuffed for that because they thought that looked like a mini website for their winning work bit of business. And all it is surfacing the standard bits from Alfresco and the data. Another example is health and safety. As I said, health and safety is hugely important. So people need to look through. So it's not a great screenshot here, but you'd start off, and then depending on what you clicked on the left, you'd have a chevron, and these are just the folders and the dynamic folders within the Alfresco system. That's all that is. And then people get to the bit of content and they get the latest health and safety procedure, which is obviously critical to us. But again, nothing they couldn't have done in any other system, nothing they couldn't do in Share, but people wanted it to look a bit more exciting and just a bit above the Share interface on that side. So they've been well received by people, and some people say, I want more of that for my production or my procurement section. So we've got a bit of a built up, well, not frenzy, but a bit of demand on that side of things. But again, just using, and we would call them apps, and I realise they're not full-blown apps, but it's using what's in there. Okay. So that's giving you a bit of feel for how we use it, what we use it for, how critical it is, and did we achieve all our objectives? Cost reduction, yeah, we did. So the bean counters are happy with that. My boss is quite happy with that. So we achieved that now, and we've been able to reinvest that money in other things. Are all departments using one repository? Well, yes, they are, because they've got no bloody choice, because there's nowhere else for them to store the data, right, other than a hard drive. So we think that's always important, and it's what we call removal of old methods of publication. So if we kept the old systems there, I'm bloody sure some people would still be using it, but they don't, it's gone. So they move over, that's it, they don't get to go back, okay? WebDAV helped enormously, right? We did try the thing called SIFs, but we didn't have a very good experience with that, but WebDAV gave the finance people what they wanted, which is my Excel spreadsheets. So they were off, and they're on the system. Not sure they'll ever take advantage of the other facilities, but they're on the system and they've got all the linked spreadsheets that they want through WebDAV. So no change for them. Access from documents anywhere, not just on the Miller network. So mobile we're starting to use, but if they're using it through our extranet, they can get access to the documents. So we have a lot of people who work from home or other things, and they don't need to be on a Miller machine or a Miller laptop to access the information. They can come in through the extranet, and then they can pick up the content and their files and everything from that. So that was a big one as well, because on the previous system you had to be on the Miller network or the VPN to get access to Miller information. Now you can get it from anywhere, okay, with that. And a lot of people like the triggers to content push. So we found on Monday mornings, a classic example would be people would change a whole load of documents, and then they would go and distribute it to a whole load of people via, not like that, well maybe, but via email, okay? A bit of both, right? So now the MD will get an email saying latest version of the whatever it is available for you. So he goes, great. He looks at it if he wants to. If he doesn't, he doesn't. So it takes out that somebody's got around the distributor or create a distribution list and email that every Monday morning, because that's what we had in the past. Going back to the traditional business that we are, we had that on the go a lot. So we do have a single source for all data, almost. I think the bit we're missing is we've still got some information in our email archive system, okay? Our email archive system, because we're on Novell GroupWise, is quite proprietary, so we're just going to leave that at the moment. So when I say almost, I think we've got most of the data in there, but any data in a previous time is still going to sit in the archive, and I'm not sure we're going to move that out. But going forward, people drag their email, put it into Empower, because they go, great, that's not going to go into my archive, and that's what they want, and it's easy to search and look back at an email. Whereas before, everybody hates our email archive system. And after 365 days, your email goes into the archive whether you like it or not. That's our company rules. So people can stop using archive going forward, or they have done, because they're able to drag and drop it into Alfresco. So that's been a big thing. People like that, like it a lot. And have we, I think we have shown some of the value of the applications and the value add, yes. The couple of bits we mentioned there, the KMS and health and safety that we have built. And just the standard features, which is the notifications, the favourites, the rules, the document tagging. We use all of them. Notifications a lot, favourites we use a lot, rules, we've got a lot of rules built into the system. And okay, the IT people generally build those rules. We don't, the average user, well, I think the average user gets a bit, we don't let them do the rules, I think is probably the best way to say. So if there's rules on sections of the system, then we generally build that. But they can tag the documents, do their own notifications and tagging and other things on the system. So was it all plain sailing? Well, the wee guy in the middle tells you it wasn't all plain sailing, right? See, the reality was, at one point, we did have some serious concerns about Alfresco, the platform, the technology, and the organisation. So that wasn't a great place to be a couple of years ago, maybe longer than a couple of years ago. But, I think business confidence was low because we did have some issues. Did consider a plan B, and we felt we were missing a few opportunities on that. But I think we're certainly past that now. I wouldn't be here today if we weren't past that, would I? So I think in the last 2 years we've made a lot of strides. I think some of the new people coming to Alfresco, quite frankly, have made a difference from my point of view. I think the new TAM appointed, sitting in the audience here. So I think so again, it came down to a bit of personalities. But I think the biggest thing for us is the software became more robust, I think, in that period, right? So I think, and hopefully we'll like to look at version 5. We will plan to move to that, to take advantage of the latest features. But I think some time ago, maybe 24 months, maybe a bit longer, but we did have a couple of sticky moments, to be quite honest. I think we're well past that now. We've had a long period of stability. People in my business, it's good because they forget about that, right? We don't, so we still press Alfresco hard to make sure that the stability comes through when we do go through the upgrades on that, but we are a bit more confident in that. We have been through a couple of upgrade cycles now, okay, of point releases, but that's been a good exercise for us to do, and it's been relatively painless. So not all plain sailing. I think if you're coming into it now, then I think you'll be good. If you've been through the things the last couple of years, you might have shared some of our issues there, but yeah, no, pretty good at the moment now, pretty good. So we want that to continue. So our hopes for this time next year is what we want to achieve. Well, I think we want the continued stability, which is what I've talked about, and we'd like the look of version 5, and we actively plan to move to that. Okay, I think the product improvements have been evidenced. I think some of the things we've seen today, certainly I've been quite excited about, which is good. We have. I mean, I can't blame Alfresco for everything, because we have matured our own capability quite a lot over the last couple of years. So we are much more self-sufficient. We know a lot more. We don't change the bits of code that we maybe should have changed before. So we have matured on our own capability and the use of Alfresco also. We've got much better business confidence, and we've been able to leverage certainly mobile, the workflow, extended applications, and we'll use a little bit of the cloud, which we plan to use a bit more of a hybrid situation there in the future. So we use a small amount of the cloud for synchronizing information for disaster recovery and business continuity purposes. Okay, not a huge bit, but it's a sort of little toe in the water for us to start to use it in the future for the cloud. So our platform of choice is Alfresco. Over a decade ago, it was LiveLink. So that's been pretty good for us. What would we like to see? I think probably all of these were mentioned. So we'd like improved mobile functionality. A little bit of that we saw today, albeit we use Android, not Apple, so Android seems a little bit further behind. We want to expand the use of sites. I think some of the better collaboration and maybe more granularity on the permissions, and that would help us slightly on the sites and what we do for bringing external people into the system. Increased application and data surfacing tools. I think we saw some of that today. And better reporting content has been a big hobby horse of ours over the last few years, but I think I saw a bit of that this morning. So we've had to handcraft and script that ourselves, haven't we? So that's not been very good today. So hopefully version 5 will bring some of those things for us from Alfresco in the future. That brings me to the end. I'll take any questions, but hopefully in summary, we chose it for, we had some pretty big targets to hit when we, to implement it. It wasn't plain sailing. I think we're past that now. We're excited about what we're getting in the future. And certainly from our point in the business, if you went to speak to people, they would be using it every day. So we don't have the adoption problems that other people have, because we've taken it all away from them on the other side. On that. So hopefully that's given you a bit of insight into our experiences. And I'll take any questions if there are any.
You've
got to get a microphone.
If you can,
And no difficult questions either. So I forgot to say that, didn't I?
Okay, my name is Daniel. I'm an IT director in the eastern part of Switzerland of a small company, industrial company with about 250 employees. We are using Alfresco since a good year, and wow, I can absolutely feel how you felt through some of that period. And I have also a question, not just sharing feelings. You advised me or us to not restructure data shortly before the move.
Yes.
How did you handle old, unused data? Because we all know there's a big pile of data. Yeah. And my credo at the moment, and we are just before moving all the data, is I don't want this old, shit in there. Yeah. So, what to do?
No. I mean, so that's exactly what we thought. So, and again, it was more the IT people. We wanted to keep all this data. So we tried to, in those first two, we tried to reorganize it. And after that, we didn't. It was a whole load of shit data, and we just moved it over. So we have, we have got bits in Alfresco that we know it's probably needs to be sorted out, but we think, well, it was shit then, it'll be shit now, and people don't generally access it. So we just had to take the decision that you can't do that, because we tried to do that in those first two, and it just didn't work. So we had the option of two options. Keep it there, keep the shit stuff over there, and then people still access that old system, or just move it over and put it into an area that probably nobody's gonna access for long periods of time. And if we can prove that, then maybe we can get rid of it. So that's the decision we took on that. But I know exactly where you're coming from, but that's what we decided to do.
Sorry, we got one at the back here.
That's
Shoaib from ECM Core in Glasgow. I was quite impressed to see that you mentioned that you've got a lot of your internal developers mature to do things on your own in terms of your IT department. Yes. I remember Alfresco training coming in and doing a lot of training, yeah, so that definitely helps. Just a quick question, it was quite repository centric. Have you moved out from repository and using a lot of sites now? Yeah,
it's still, I'd say 50-50 Shoaib, right? So okay. We still are repository centric, and that's the way the bit, so we use sites for housing, development. So if we're doing a project, we're building a housing development project, but other things. So finance don't want a project. People who run for years, they don't want to go into sites. So some things fit nicely into sites. So I would say 50-50 with that. Well, yeah. We didn't see the same problem of using the repository, I think, as maybe some people did. We don't see that as a big problem. So.
Hi, I'm Joe de Polacki. I'm a records management consultant at West London Mental Health Trust. One of the questions I was going to have, you've already answered, because the gentleman from Glasgow has put it. But the other question I have is that you obviously seem to be using the system, Alfresco, as a quasi-SharePoint system. Is that correct? I.e., you've got work in progress as opposed to only storing finalized records and documents.
Both. Yeah. So people do all the work in everything, all the working documents, all the final content, so everything in there. Yeah.
And very leading question, since we're here at an Alfresco conference, are you happy with Alfresco?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't.
Well, I'm sure you wouldn't.
People who know me, Okay.
So I was asked to ask you this question as a test question.
And I'll be honest, we were asked to do something a couple of years ago. I think we said no, right? Because of the guy pulling his hair out. So 2 years ago, were we happy? No. Now, yes, we're happy.
Hi, my name's Lucy. I'm from CERN in Switzerland. Do you use it in HR context?
HR use it heavily, yeah. So
document management?
Yeah, the whole thing, yeah. So we've built them a little A to Z thing, actually. So they can go in and it links into the HR system, but all the documents and all the contracts, letters, templates, they store all of that in Empower Docs, yeah. So they use it very
Personnel
heavily.
Files, everything?
Yeah, everything. The whole lot. So all my naughty letters are in, as I call them, are in under the S, and somewhere in there under the employee number. Yes, so they use it for everything. Because a number of years ago, actually, I have to give credit to the LiveLink system, but they went paperless in LiveLink days, so moved over to Empower Docs. They remained that way, and they continue to use it. Yeah, so they use it for all of that. Yeah.
I've got a question. And I've got the mics on. Going to ask you.
Yeah.
Somebody asked a question about records management. Do you declare?
No, we don't.
You don't do anything around records.
We don't have to. I mean, it's a little strange because, you know, some of the things we build, we have to keep records for hospitals and other things. But you know, we've sold that division. But I mean, even then, we're not. We do keep records for a long period of time, but we don't need to declare them in records management, or at least that's not come through the legal people to ourselves. And we've asked them a number of times, and so no, we don't officially do it. No.
Okay, thank you. There's another question at the back.
Hi, my name is Mareta, and I'm from University of Westminster. I was wondering how much support, like end user support, do you provide for your staff? Like, do you provide training, user guides, FAQs?
Yeah, we don't give them a lot. In fact, very little. The team of two, right, that I mentioned did the rollout. They do everything, and they actually manage a couple of other systems as well. But so no, we don't go out and do a lot of training. We've got a couple of online. I think we've probably nicked a bit of Alfresco stuff actually, but there's a couple of online videos. But we do feel that if people can't use it, you know, it's self, you know, intuitive. So no, we don't give them any training on any of that really. We get it in, we do a sort of PowerPoint, go, this is what's happened, it was there, it's now here, here's the bits, away you go, and that's more. We don't do any classroom training, we don't provide anything else in that nature, no.
Okay, the reason why I was asking that was because we initially thought that there is no need for training, but we've been proven wrong.
Yeah.
And we have had to create FAQs and kind of quick guides and provide classroom support for our users.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we don't provide a lot, I think is all I'll say. I think the bit I'm talking about phase 2 is we go around regional roadshows and we do a bit of a presentation to say, look, you can do this, and remind people of some things. That would be the maximum effort we would put into it for that.
Hi, I'm Adrian from Oxford University Press. You say you use WebDAV quite a lot.
Yeah.
So do you have you had any much problems with that? And in particular, you say about you've got a lot of people coming in from outside of your network. Do you allow people in via WebDAV?
No, we don't allow that. No, we don't. So the people coming outside have got to come in and use the web browser, unless they're on a Miller machine. So they can VPN in, and if they VPN in, they get WebDAV. So if it's a Miller employee, they can get the WebDAV. We don't open that up through the external firewall. And have we had problems with WebDAV? Not really. We did have a lot of problems with CIFS, which is, I'm not sure that's still available now. It is, but it's rubbish. I wouldn't use it. You know, we had problems. It's maybe when you look at it, but WebDAV's been very stable, very good. I mean, I think the only one little problem we've got is when it comes back to bean counters again, doesn't it? That if they click through a big folder structure and they get to the May schedule and they open it and they say, I'm going to make a change, I'm going to save that as the June schedule, then WebDAV takes them to the back of the tree again, right? Now that's just a little bit of an issue with the protocol, but that's the biggest issue we have. That's the biggest complaint we have. So we have no other technical issues or performance issues with it. It seems to work very well. And that's the one issue we have. It doesn't stick at that top tree.
Cool. So yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Peter. I'm from Medical Protection Society. I was interested on, do you use an intranet at all, or have you superseded with Alfresco?
We use an intranet on top, so I can tell you what product it is if you're interested, but we use an intranet in a box type product, so holiday card and other things. So there's a bit of an overlap with Alfresco, and some of the things we could say, well, we could use it like wikis. We could use wikis here, or we could use wikis there. We actually don't use Alfresco wikis, but we use it on this other product. So there's a bit of an overlap, but the organisational chart and the phone directory and the latest news and all that stuff is on the intranet. So people will access Empower Docs, through that. So they integrate to a point, but not hugely. They really just link, hyperlinks through to the relevant documents. Okay.
Last question, because I think we're coming up to the end of our time.
My name's Ash. I'm from Arkiva. How was your experience when migrating existing LiveLink permissions into Alfresco? Or did you use permissions in LiveLink?
Yeah, we use permissions a lot, yeah.
And how was...
So what did we do? We created new permissions. We didn't migrate the permissions. So moved the data over. We agreed with a structure, a simpler structure, I might add, because we'd had LiveLink for 10 years. So we agreed a simple structure of permissions, and we just overlaid that on there. So we didn't actually migrate those permissions.
Why was that?
I think mostly there might have been a technical reason, but I can't think whether it was. But it was mostly, I think, from my point of view, it was mostly that we'd become over elaborate on our permissions on that. So rather than having a clean structure, we had closed user groups all over the place, and so we just thought it evolved maybe wrongly over the last decade. So it was an opportunity to try and make it simple. And one thing we've tried to do with this is to keep it simple. So I think that was most of the reason. There may have been a technical reason, but I can't quite recollect that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.